on the draft, you took Anthony Simmons. How close were you to taking Randy Moss?
We talked a lot about him. I don't know if people remember, but when Randy Moss came out, he had come from Florida State, where there was a bunch of baggage that followed him to Marshall, and there was a bunch of baggage at Marshall. And Randy will be the first one to tell you he wasn't the most mature at that time. So there were issues. And we had this discussion. I remember myself talked to Bob Witz about it, and in turn to Paul about it, just to go through the baggage that was there. Here's what we decided. We had a different need, a little different player that we wanted to acquire. But if you remember this, the Vikings were the team that picked him. They were a team that at the time had no owner. They were in the middle of an ownership sale. So I remember talking to Dennis Green about this. He said, I didn't have to go get approval from any owner. I didn't have to get somebody to check the box. And it was clear that they were going to have to, because of Randy's background, they were going to have to run it all the way up to the top of the flagpole. And Minnesota was a team that didn't have the top of the flagpole because they had no owner at the time. So that was one of the reasons why he ended up in Minnesota. But I mean, obviously he would have been a great player for Seattle as well. Played, 15 years and was just as fast in year 15 as he was in year 1. It's funny. Later on, I went to New Orleans and we played Minnesota, I think 3 times, 2 regular seasons and once in the playoff. I think he had 4 catches in those 3 games, but all 4 were for touchdowns. And I think it was 306 yards or something like that in those 4 catches. That's how explosive he was. And maybe that was my payback for not drafting him.
Well, I think it's the part that you guys have to weigh in that us fans don't have the opportunity. When we do all of our little evaluations on the players and watching the tape, the place I always say that we can't look into is the background checks. And you guys get these stories, and sometimes I'm sure you guys get some pretty eye-opening stories at that would make many of us have a lot of hesitation to take in these players. And that's why I want to ask, and I get the impression, not just from the feeling of you on this, but with Randy in general and what we heard with him, and that he was a guy that did have some of these guys have differing levels of baggage, and there's a lot on top of this one if you're going to make it. No doubt about the talent. It wasn't a matter of you guys didn't see the talent. You did. It was a matter of the baggage was just too big.
That's right. At that time, it just wasn't the thing for us. It was just too risky.